Hey there, welcome to day 141 of our Let's Grow Annual Challenge. Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here, and today we are continuing our focus on mental growth, and we're looking at optimism and what it is, how it's formed, ways to improve our optimism, because optimism has a very positive effect on our mental growth. So optimism is our ability to focus on and see possibilities and opportunities in the world. Now, some people are super duper optimistic. Some people are pessimistic. Some people that live in the exact same family are pessimistic and optimistic and somewhere in between. We tend to, as human beings, based on different experiences and factors and thoughts and factors like biological, genetics, brain chemistry has an impact on how positive or negative, optimistic or pessimistic we are. Environmentally, our upbringing, our social support system and things has an impact on how positive or negative, optimistic or pessimistic we are, as well as cognitive factors like perception, interpretation of events. We all have the ability, events are neutral, right? We always say bad things happen to good people, but really things just happen, and we as human beings decide if they were a bad thing or a good thing or a neutral thing, right? Most things are just what they are, and it's the meaning we place on them that decides if they were a positive event or a negative event, an opportunity or a roadblock. So it's interesting. Our action item today is going to be super simple. It's to ask yourself, on a scale of 1 to 10, how optimistic am I? 10 is you're super optimistic. You see the bright side of everything. All you see are opportunities and possibilities all around you. There might be some challenges, but you know you're going to get what you want no matter what. That would be a 10. A 1 is somebody who's pretty much a naysayer, negative, says no in the first place all the time. That's me. So I know I'm not all optimistic. I have some pessimistic tendencies, but I also know I am more optimistic than I am pessimistic. I have members of my family that are super duper pessimistic. I have members of my family that are way more optimistic than me, which I absolutely love and adore because they keep me focusing on the positive, focusing on the opportunities and focusing on possibilities. Because guess what? Once we give up hope and give up our ability to see possibilities, it makes our life kind of miserable. So our action item scale of 1 to 10, but what are some ways if you say, okay, I'm like a 3 or a 4. I don't like that. I want to be at least a 6 or a 7. How are we going to go about being more optimistic? So I'm going to share 5 different ways that we can do that. 1, you can incorporate positive thinking practices into your life and techniques, reframing thoughts. So you have a negative thought and then you challenge that thought like we learned yesterday. You challenge that thought and you're like, well, geez, is this really true? Because remember, ants, automatic negative thoughts, those are pessimistic, right? They're not optimistic. So if you're having a lot of those, you can use the same process to change and be more optimistic that you use for getting over those ants. You can also focus on appreciation for the good things in your life. Guess what? We all have, now, even if we go through super miserable times in our life, we all have a whole lot more going for us, at least here in America, than we have going against us. Even in the worst of times, if we can flip that switch and focus on the things that are working and be grateful for them, that will help our mindset. That will help us to see the possibilities and be more optimistic. Secondly, and one of my favorite tools, and I talk about it very often, is gratitude. We have to appreciate what's working. We have to appreciate what's good. Think about that to create more of that in our life. Thirdly, we want to set realistic goals. Now, I have a whole thing about realistic versus unrealistic goals. You know, they have everybody out in the universe, not everybody, but a lot of information in the universe says set SMART goals, meaning achievable, realistic. You're sure you can get them, but it's a reach for you. I'm like, heck no. Set those big, hairy, audacious goals. Set the biggest goal you can possibly imagine, because we are, each and every one of us, capable of achieving way more than our brains can even fathom right now. But that's a topic of your own. But in order to stay positive and optimistic, you got to achieve some goals along the way to keep you moving toward those big, hairy, audacious goals. So I agree, set realistic goals, realistic sub goals that have your lifetime legacy goals be absolutely positively to the moon and the sun and back. Number 4, surround yourself with supportive and uplifting individuals. Okay, We've all been in a group or in an organization or in a company or in any other gathering of people. You think of at a funeral. Everybody's not real optimistic and upbeat at a funeral, right? But you take those same people and put them at a Christmas party, and they might be optimistic and a whole lot of fun. So a lot of times it's environmental, but it's or situational, but it's also, there are some people that are just plain Debbie Downers, right? Or downtrodden Dan. I don't know. I like to make up names. But if we hang out with those people, if we spend a lot of time with those people, guess what? They will negatively impact our thinking, and we'll start to think more negatively. We'll start to be more pessimistic. We'll stop seeing the opportunities that are around all of us all the time. And so be careful who you spend your time with. It doesn't mean you cut everybody out forever. It just means maybe you limit the amount of time you spend around super duper pessimistic people. And then 5, practice, do practices and use tools like mindfulness, right? Be in the present moment. Because guess what? Most of the time, what's going on right now isn't anything to be negative or pessimistic about. Might have had a bad experience at work today, but that doesn't mean you have to bring it home with you, right? Leave it at work. You might have had a run-in at the PTA. Leave it at the PTA. Don't bring it home, and don't let it affect you longer than the amount of time that the event actually happened. So many of us, I'll give an example, personal example, got fired once. Been fired more than once, but one time I got fired, and it was very painful because it was not a deserved firing, and there were a lot of situations around it. It was an organization with a very sick culture that every year or two, one of the leadership team got fired in order to make the vice president of that division look good. At least he thought it made him look good. I personally think it made him look ridiculous, because every year or so he was firing one of his key people and had to replace him. And it was a big upheaval in the organization, which was already culturally pretty sick. So I got fired, and I took what was like a 10-minute meeting with this man and the vice president of human resources, and I relived it over and over and over and over again for, probably a couple of years. Now, that kept me stuck in a negative situation that if I had just left it in that meeting and said, okay, well, I know that this is a bunch of BS and ridiculous, I could have saved myself a whole lot of pessimism, negative thinking, doubt, worry, fear, etc. But that's an example of, we take, or you get in an argument with your significant other that lasts like 20 or 30 seconds, or they use the wrong tone of voice with you, and then you're mad for the whole night and the whole next day. What a waste, right? So that's practicing mindfulness, being in the present moment, will help us to not stretch out those events, and as will all these other practices. And then meditation as well. Meditation, hypnosis, all kinds of tools like that. And I love them. I think that I use them every day. I've got an app on my phone called Believe that I use every single day, even if it's just playing in the background, to play affirmations. I don't usually do hypnosises during the day, because I don't want to go out and fall asleep and be in my internal brain when I'm trying to do other things. All right, our action item, 1 to 10. Just share your number in the comments below. And this is where your number is right now. Your number might be a 2 right now, but it's going to be an 8 tomorrow, because it changes all the time, right? Based on environment, circumstances, people we're hanging around with, etc. So how optimistic are you? Share in the comments below. I'm going to say I'm about a 6 today. So I'm a 6 today. Yeah. All right. And you share yours, and then I will see you tomorrow with another topic about mental growth. Have an amazing day. Be optimistic.